Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive.
Mhm.
We're going to be talking about something you've been wanting to explore.
Okay.
The idea that history seems to just keep repeating itself,
Oh.
even as we gain more knowledge.
Yeah,
And you've been interested in how we could maybe break free from that cycle.
for sure.
So to help us unpack all of this, we've got some really fascinating insights from an article called O Ciclo Perpetua da Ignorancia.
Okay.
And that translates to the perpetual cycle of ignorance.
Interesting.
And it's by Marynês Pereira, who dives into neuroscience, quantum physics, and even positive psychology.
Wow.
So I already think this is going to be a wild ride.
Yeah, Pereira's work is so interesting because she really tackles this idea
Okay.
that the quest for power and the ways that we control information might actually be the things that are keeping us stuck.
Whoa. Okay, so that's a pretty bold claim. It's
Yeah.
like we think we're progressing, like climbing this staircase of knowledge,
Mhm.
but we're really just going in circles.
Right.
So where does she even begin to unravel this?
Well, she starts by looking at how the suppression of knowledge throughout history has led to similar problems popping up again and again. It's like we haven't really learned from the past.
That makes me think about the burning of the Library of Alexandria.
Oh, yeah.
What a tragic loss of knowledge.
Absolutely. That's a perfect example of how fragile knowledge can be.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes beyond just physical destruction.
Right.
Pereira argues that attempts to control information are happening all the time,
Rally.
even in subtle ways.
So it's not just about book burnings anymore.
No, not at all.
It's about how information is presented to us.
Exactly.
So like the media might play a role in this cycle of ignorance.
Precisely. Pereira talks about how the media can subtly shape our understanding.
Okay.
Like, think about it for a second.
Yeah.
News outlets have biases. They choose what to cover and what to leave out.
Right.
They highlight certain narratives, and sometimes they even leave out crucial facts that might challenge those narratives.
Wow. That's kind of unsettling. So it's not just about what we know, it's about how we know it.
Right.
And if we're only getting a partial picture or a biased one, it's easy to see how we might keep making the same mistakes.
Absolutely. This manipulation, as Pereira calls it,
Okay.
can keep us trapped in a cycle of not having all the information we need to make informed decisions about the future.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads us right into another powerful tool of control,
Which is,
fear.
ooh, yeah, fear is a big one.
For sure.
I mean, think about how much fear-mongering we see in the news today.
Yeah,
It's like a constant barrage of negativity.
exactly. Pereira points out how fear is used as a tool of control.
Right.
It can make us feel vulnerable and anxious, which then leads us to accept information without questioning it,
Oh, yeah.
even if it's not the whole story.
Wow.
It plays right into that cycle of ignorance.
Which makes me think about people who challenge the status quo.
Yeah.
People who come up with radical new ideas.
Uh-huh.
They're often met with fear and resistance, aren't they? It's like we're afraid of change, even if it could be for the better.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Pereira actually uses the story of Nikola Tesla, the brilliant inventor, to illustrate this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, even though Tesla was incredibly innovative,
Yeah.
his ideas were often met with skepticism and even hostility. He
Really?
faced all sorts of roadblocks, patent disputes, lack of funding, you name it.
That's really frustrating to think about.
is.
It's like progress itself was being actively hindered.
Right.
And this reminds me of another comparison in the article that I found super interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pereira contrasts the journeys of two innovators, João Augusto Conrado do Amaral Gurgel, a Brazilian pioneer in electric cars back in the 1970s,
Wow.
and the more well-known Elon Musk.
Interesting.
I thought it was really brilliant how she showed how the environment that an idea is born in can have such a huge impact on its success.
For sure.
Like Gurgel, despite his incredible work on electric vehicles, faced tons of challenges in a closed market with limited support. He was a visionary way ahead of his time, but the context just wasn't right for him to truly flourish.
Yeah, whereas Musk, operating in a system that was more open to disruptive technologies, found much greater success.
Exactly.
It's kind of a right place, right time situation.
Yeah.
But it also shows how crucial external factors are in determining whether these groundbreaking ideas actually make a difference.
Absolutely. And Pereira's larger point is that stifling innovation isn't just a missed opportunity for the present.
Right.
It actually delays progress for generations to come.
It's like we're robbing ourselves of a better future.
Yeah, and this leads us to another area where Pereira dives deep.
Okay.
Healthcare.
Healthcare is so important.
It is. I'm really curious to see how this theme of power and control plays out in the world of medicine and health.
Well, Pereira specifically looks at how certain types of knowledge have become dominant while others have been pushed to the margins.
Okay.
For example, she discusses the historical dominance of allopathic medicine, which is essentially what we consider conventional Western medicine,
Right.
and how it has sometimes overshadowed alternative approaches like naturopathy.
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of debate about the effectiveness and legitimacy of alternative medicine versus conventional practices.
And Pereira suggests that this dynamic, this tendency to favor one type of knowledge over another, can actually restrict advancements in healthcare.
How so?
Well, by not being open to diverse forms of knowledge, we might be missing out on potential breakthroughs.
Interesting.
We're limiting our options, so to speak.
It makes you wonder how many potentially beneficial therapies or treatments have been overlooked or dismissed
Yeah.
just because they didn't fit the prevailing medical paradigm.
Exactly. And from there, Pereira brings up an issue that affects millions of people around the world:
What's that?
obesity.
Okay, so now we're moving from knowledge and innovation to a very real and pressing health concern.
Right.
I'm ready to hear how Pereira connects this back to the larger themes we've been discussing.
Okay.
What's her take on the obesity epidemic?
Well, she starts by highlighting some pretty alarming statistics. For example, in the U.S., over 40% of adults are now considered obese.
Wow.
And this isn't just an American problem. We're seeing similar trends in other countries, including Brazil.
Those are some pretty staggering numbers.
They are.
What does Pereira say about the causes of this?
She points to a complex interplay of factors:
Okay.
the rise of ultra-processed foods, increasingly sedentary lifestyles, and limited access to healthy food options and education about nutrition.
So it's not just about individual choices.
No.
It's also about the environment and the structures that shape those choices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Makes me think of Plato's allegory of the cave.
Oh, yeah.
We're all kind of trapped in this cave, taking the shadows projected on the wall as reality,
Uh-huh.
instead of questioning what's casting those shadows in the first place.
That's a really powerful metaphor for the cycle of ignorance.
It is.
It suggests that we need to be willing to step outside our comfort zones,
Yes.
question the narratives we're given, and actively seek out truth and knowledge.
And that requires a certain level of courage, right? The courage to challenge assumptions, to admit when we're wrong, and to be open to new perspectives, even if they're uncomfortable.
So it sounds like breaking free from this cycle of ignorance isn't just about acquiring more information.
It's not.
It's about changing our relationship with knowledge.
Absolutely. And that's a perfect place to pause. For now,
Sure.
in the next part of this deep dive, we'll explore how we can move beyond simply understanding the problem
Okay.
to actually taking action, breaking free from those shadows and stepping into a brighter, more informed future.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. Like we were talking about before,
Okay.
It's not enough to just recognize these patterns of ignorance. We have to actively choose to do things differently.
Right.
That's where breaking free really begins.
So it's less about just passively taking in information and more about being critical thinkers.
Exactly.
Like we need to be asking why and how, not just accepting things at face value.
Right. It's about cultivating that healthy sense of skepticism. Not being cynical, but being empowered to decide what's true from what might be manipulative or incomplete.
Pereira uses the word liberated
Yeah.
when she talks about the kind of society we need to strive for. What do you think she means by that?
I think she's talking about a society where knowledge is truly accessible to everyone,
Okay.
where information isn't just a privilege for a few.
Yeah.
It's a society that welcomes different perspectives and where people are encouraged to think for themselves.
So breaking down those barriers that prevent people from getting the information they need
Yeah.
to make informed decisions about their lives and communities.
Right, and empowering individuals to question authority and challenge the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about blindly accepting what we're told,
Right.
but about actively engaging with information and forming our own conclusions.
And that makes me think it's not just about escaping the cave ourselves, but also helping others find their way out too.
Absolutely.
Like once you see the light, you want to share it with everyone.
It's a collective effort.
Yeah.
We have to create a culture of learning
Okay.
where curiosity is celebrated and knowledge is shared freely without those barriers of control and manipulation.
So maybe it starts with small steps.
Right.
Like having open and honest conversations with our friends and families, sharing different perspectives, and being willing to challenge our own beliefs.
Those conversations can be so powerful.
I think so.
They can spark new ideas and help us break down those ingrained biases.
Right.
We can start seeing the world in new ways.
And it's about being mindful of the information we consume
Mhm.
and the information we share.
For sure.
Are we contributing to a more informed world,
Yeah.
or are we spreading fear and misinformation?
We have a responsibility to be discerning about our sources
Okay,
and to verify information before we pass it along.
right.
We have to be wary of content that's designed to manipulate our emotions, especially these days with social media,
Yeah.
where things can spread so quickly.
It's almost like we all need to become information detectives. I like that. Evaluating evidence, looking for inconsistencies.
Yeah.
Seeking out multiple sources to
Yes.
confirm what we're reading or hearing.
And that includes being willing to admit when we're wrong,
Oh, absolutely.
being open to changing our minds based on new information, and being receptive to different perspectives,
Yeah.
even when they challenge our most deeply held beliefs.
Learning is a lifelong journey.
It is.
We should always be pushing ourselves to broaden our understanding of the world.
Definitely.
And I think that brings us back to the listener and their desire to break free from the cycle.
Right. It's all about agency.
Okay.
Taking control of our own learning,
Yeah.
recognizing the forces that might be trying to influence our thinking, and choosing to be active, informed participants in the world.
So it's not a one-time fix.
Not at all.
It's a constant process of questioning, learning, unlearning.
Right.
It's about staying vigilant.
Pereira really emphasizes this point.
Okay.
Breaking free from this cycle isn't a destination. It's an ongoing process. We need to be aware that there will always be people who seek to control information and manipulate our understanding.
But the more aware we are of those forces, the better equipped we are to resist them.
Exactly.
We have the power to choose knowledge over ignorance and to contribute to a world where information is used for good.
It's a future worth striving for.
Definitely.
A future where knowledge is truly power.
Yeah.
A power that is shared and used to benefit all of humanity.
And I think that leads perfectly into the last part of our deep dive. So it feels like we've uncovered all these like hidden things, mechanisms, and forces that are contributing to this cycle of ignorance. But it's one thing to know about them.
Right.
Breaking free is a whole other thing.
It's
What
wild.
can we actually do?
Yeah, what are some actual steps that we can take?
Yeah, what does that look like in our daily lives?
Well, Pereira's call to action at the end of the article really resonated with me.
Okay.
It's a good reminder that we have a responsibility to ourselves and to future generations to break free from this cycle.
Yeah.
We can't just sit back and hope things will change on their own.
Right.
We have to be the change.
Okay, so where do we start?
I think it starts with recognizing that knowledge isn't just about accumulating facts and figures.
Okay.
It's about understanding the interconnectedness of things,
Right.
the complexities of human behavior, and the forces that shape our world.
Okay.
It's about seeing the bigger picture.
And understanding how our own individual actions and choices fit into that bigger picture.
Exactly.
It's easy to feel powerless sometimes.
Yeah.
Like our choices don't really matter.
Right.
But they do.
They absolutely do. Every choice we make, every piece of information we consume or share contributes to the world that we're all creating.
So it's not about waiting for someone else to fix things.
Yeah.
It's about taking ownership of our own knowledge
Yeah.
and using it to make a difference.
And that can take so many different forms.
Like what?
It might be engaging in meaningful conversations. Okay. With people who have different viewpoints.
Yeah.
Or challenging misinformation when we see it spreading online. Or maybe supporting organizations that are promoting critical thinking and education.
So it's about creating a ripple effect,
I like that.
spreading awareness,
Yeah.
inspiring others to join us on this journey of knowledge and enlightenment.
And remember, this is an ongoing journey.
Okay.
There will be times when we stumble, we fall back into old patterns, we get discouraged.
Right.
But that's okay. It's part of the process.
The important thing is to keep learning,
Yeah.
keep questioning, keep pushing forward.
To remember that knowledge is a powerful tool for positive change.
Absolutely.
It can help us create a more just, equitable, and sustainable world. But only if we choose to use it wisely.
And that's the challenge and the opportunity before all of us.
It really is.
So as we're wrapping up this deep dive,
Okay.
we'll leave you with this final thought.
I like it.
What will you do to break the cycle? How will you use your knowledge to make a difference in the world?
The journey starts with a single step. Take that step today.
Thank you all so much for joining us on this incredible exploration.
Yes, it's great.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep learning,
Good
and
breath.
keep pushing the boundaries of knowledge.
Couldn't have said it better myself.